first of all, one is, he didn't pay me no $2 million. I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, second of all, if you put the strap on me and I don't want to give it back, fire me and make a new one. What's the big deal, you know? I said, I don't want to carry anything around in my bag anyway. It's just more weight, that's all.
Right. Did Hogan change it all now that he was in WWE on the top?
I never really hung out with him a lot, but I think he did. You can see it. There's a change in him, you know, like he took care of the guys that were his buddies, because it was just a big clique there. Everybody had their own little clique,
right,
their own little crew, and they looked out for each other. I was always the outsider, and that worked in my gimmick well, because I was the loner and I didn't have no partners and all that, so it worked good for me.
When Senior died, did he run the relationship with, did Junior run the relationship with New Japan?
He run the relationship with everybody.
Right.
You know, Senior had good relationships with everybody. Like I said, there was 33 different companies. They all had their own TVs, their own territories. Senior never stepped on nobody's feet. He would come to you and say, okay, I need ABC to come work for me, and I'll send you CD and E. And they say, okay. They would switch off. CD and E would go and work for these guys for 8 or 9 months or a year, and ABC would work for him. Then they would switch off again, and that's how he did business. This guy took over. I remember that merchandising contract they gave us. It says, okay, not only can you not work for Japan, you cannot work for anybody in the universe. Universe? Man, I mean, this guy controls Mars and everything.
I know.
Yeah. At this point in your career, were you making more money in WWF, or did you make more money prior to Japan?
I actually, when you worked it out and everything, I actually made more money in Japan. Because when Vince called me up that day and he says, look, I want you to come work for me for 5 years. He says, after that time, you're going to make so much money you can retire. You don't ever have to work again. This is what he told me, right? So one time, we're on the road, Davey Dynamite, Brett, and myself. And I never asked nobody about their money. What their money is their business. What money I make is my business, right? And so I called my wife. We're on the road. And I said, did my checks come in? Yeah. She says, yeah. So I said, what did I get? She says, if I tell you, you're going to kill somebody. So I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to wait till you get home. I said, what do you mean? She said, I'm not going to tell you. I said, okay. So we used to take an advance of $100, you know, because we had to pay for our cars and our rooms and all that, right? I get home, there's a check for $250.
Ooh, $250.
So I said, okay. Now I'm getting mad. I'm going to go, no, don't call Vince up, because guys, there's little flunkies. Then I'm never going to get him on the phone. I'm going to wait till I see him at TV. And I went in there and I said, I didn't know. When you told me to come here, you were going to retire me in 5 years, that you were going to retire me to the poorhouse. I said, I never made $250 in years in this business. What the hell is this? You know, it's started with the excuses. I lost money on that movie, No Holds Barred, and this and that. And I knew he was lying, because that summer, usually summer, you know, it gets slow. But for that year, we did good business everywhere because of the movie, even though it stunk. Right. So I knew he made good. So what he was doing was off the top, taking his money back that he lost on the movie. And we were all getting screwed. Right. So I told him, I said, hey, I don't need this. I'll go back to Japan. He says, well, if you want to go, I'll call. I said, you don't need to call for me. He said, I can pick up the phone and talk to you right now. I said, I don't need you to call for me at all. I said, but this is bullshit, you know.
Kamala was telling us too.
Yeah. So this is bullshit. I said, you know, you bring me all these lies, you've been lying to me from day one, and this is nonsense. So he says, no, I got other plans, and of course it kept going on, and finally, enough's enough for him. Yeah.
Did you find it odd that you did jobs pretty much everywhere around the world prior to SummerSlam?
I didn't care. I didn't care, because I told them I was leaving. They knew it. They knew sooner or later, because I had enough of the lying. I had enough of the phony promises. I gave, actually, the day that I got fired, I gave them my notice that I was leaving. They said, no, they begged me to stay in November. With the thing is, no, you're not fired. No, you can't quit. You're fired. That type of thing.
How were you treated on the way out?
What do you mean?
Prior, before you got fired?
Oh, I was doing jobs and everything. And then, of course, Vince, and I never said nothing. I did the job. They had me, all of a sudden they put me with Neidhart. I'm doing the job for him. They put me with that one. I can see the hand written on the wall, right?
Right.
This is what be punishing me now. Okay, so I didn't say anything. We get there, and I said, I asked Vince, this is what really made me laugh. I said, Vince, what's going on? You know? Like, you brought me here with all these promises, and now all of a sudden you're jobbing me out? What do you mean? You're being jobbed out. I said, Vince, you're not going to sit there.
Bad news ain't stupid.
These guys do not sneeze and wipe their nose without your say-so. Nobody told me nothing. What the heck's going on? I said, Vince, you're doing a good job of acting there. You know, like,
He's not going for it.
What do you call
You
it?
know,
Set?
oh yeah, told him right there. Actually, the last time that I had a run-in with Vince was when I gave my notice, and I was in San Francisco. We were supposed to wrestle Sacramento. I get in there. We're gonna wrestle Sacramento that night. We go up to Sacramento, and then the next day wrestle San Francisco. So I get in the car, and I tell everybody this story. My wife was there with me because when we did the California swing, I'd get her a ticket because I had so many frequent flyer points. And she gets in there, and I'm driving. And she says, Alan, I'm going to say something to you. She says, I never got into your business. You always did what you wanted to do, but I'm going to say something because I love you, and I don't like what I see. She says, and she just gave it to me. When I got out the car, I was about 2 feet tall. I was about this big, and I couldn't say a word. And I said, you know, she's right. She's right. So they lied to you. They done down their job with you, this and that and the other. No, okay. So now we're in Alabama, in Huntsville, and we're supposed to be at TV at 12 o'clock. I show up at 6. I'm there. Right? I'm not going in. I left my stuff in the car. I'm going in. The last thing I'm going to do in life is tell Vince off. And I mean, tell him off, right? So now I come in. I walk in and everybody's looking at me. Oh, and they see me come in, right? Because they knew I was always on time. I was there. I was never late or anything, right? Yeah, I walk in at 6 o'clock. There's this lineup. You got to make like an appointment to see Vince. You know, he's Mr. God. I walk in there. I said, who's in here with Vince? They said, Greg, Hammer Valentine. Open up the door. And Greg is sitting in there. I said, Vince says, hey, Dennis, how's it going? I said, I want to see you. He says, well, I got Greg here first, and then I said, no. After Greg leaves here, you're going to see me. And I went out the door, and I just stood there like this, and I waited. You know, looking, something's going to happen tonight. Right. As soon as he came out, he goes, Dennis, what's going on? I said, cut the crap. And then I just gave it to him. I said, I'm sick of you lying to me. I said, I'm sick of you BSing me. I said, you brought me here on the line, and I'm sick of it. I said, as of tonight, you got my notice. I quit. You're right. I didn't keep my word to you. And everything, you know.
Yeah, he's acting with it.
And it was
You like acting like
when I walked in there, Pat was sitting in there, and I said, you, get out of here. Mm-hmm. I said, you heard what I said. Don't make me say it to you again. Get out. He took off, right? And then I'm in there, and I'm just giving it to Vince. I'm just laying in it on the right. And then Pat opens the door. I said, what did I tell you? Oh, he ran out the door. Now, Chief J Strongbow, because he loved it. I told Vince off, right? He says, Alan, if you open up that door, 50 guys would have fell in the room. And I'm trying to,
nobody eavesdropping. Know about that.
So if you open up 50 guys would have fell in. He said,
I'm not trying to eavesdrop.
Hey, I told the truth. You know, the guy brought me in, false pretenses.
Bad News Brown didn't play, boy. He didn't.
Do you want an easy way to create professional invoices?
Yeah, he was something else. Instead of Vince like, oh, I don't know what's going on. What the hell's going on around here? He wasn't going for that act. He knew something was wrong with this pay business. Because I heard the dude in the back, I think it's the art video, Ross, talking about, the same thing with Kamala. Like with the action figure thing, talking about, they wasn't selling. But now these things are worth hundreds and thousands of dollars. Yeah, they weren't selling. All that stuff is hard to find, whether it's in the package or out of the package. Bad News Brown was something serious. He wasn't having it. He told Patterson, get the hell out of here when I'm talking. Yeah, he was nothing to play with.